What's up, Garage Gym Athletes? Today we're going to do some really simple food prep. So I'm going to have you do one meat, one veg, and your carb. When you look at the total elapsed time of this to make, it's going to look kind of long and kind of crazy, but just stay with me because there's a lot of lag time, and this is one of the easiest ways to do your food prep because it's mostly just throwing stuff in the oven, a little bit of prep before, and then that's it. Then also, I'm going to make a little bit of a bonus. I'm going to make a muesli recipe that Liz, my wife, created. It's a higher fat muesli, but it'll give you a container that will last you through the week. So you'll have your meat, your veg, your carb, and breakfast. So basically your lunch and your breakfast for the week, or your dinners, whatever you want your food prep to be. But you can scale this up as much as you want. That's kind of the beauty of it. I have my one chicken. So you can, like I said, you can do two if you want. I have broccoli crowns that I got from the store. I have 4 crowns, but again, it doesn't matter how many. You can do it with any kind of veg too. I just prefer broccoli. And then we have 2 sweet potatoes, pretty big sweet potatoes, however you want to do that. Garlic, onion powder for the chicken. I have Special Shit, which is from Big Cock Ranch. So you can see that right there. It is actually fantastic, really, really good seasoning. And then for the broccoli, which is one of our favorites, maple bourbon. You can use any seasoning that you want. This is just the ones that we prefer. So, step 1 will be to preheat your oven. Before you do anything, just preheat your oven. I kind of cheated and started already before, so it's already ready to go. Step 2 I also did, it would be unwrapping the chicken. I feel like you can do that on your own. You don't need to see how to do it. Take the wrapping off, rinse it real quick, and then good to go. And then, so now we're gonna season it and then get the chicken going. So, one little hack for the chicken that I like to do is I put it in the sink because when you're doing a bunch of seasoning, sprinkling it on there, it's gonna get everywhere so you don't have to clean up the counter as much. Also, you want to start with the backbone up and the breast side down, so that way you have 2 sides of the seasoning to go. So you're just going to liberally put everything on it. You're also going to put water in it. So you want to put about 1/4 inch of water. It all depends on your size of pan and stuff, so that you can have some moisture because we're going to be covering it, and we're also going to use the liquid later on. So we're just going to cover it with aluminum foil. Just get a sheet. Hey Google, start a stopwatch. So we got the stopwatch going, then we're gonna go put this in the oven. So now that is cooking and in the oven, we're gonna start doing the broccoli, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about cooking and stuff. So with broccoli, how I like to prepare them, it's not, so most people would just take this big knife and just chop it and cut it, but then you're gonna get these little top floret parts, the little leaves and stuff everywhere, and this is a much better and easier way, and then you can use the stalk a little bit better too. So what you're gonna do is cut down on the stalks, just the little bit where they start, and then they're just gonna, the individual florets gonna come right off using your paring knife. And then you have the stalk all by itself, set off to the side, and these little florets. And then you're gonna cut down into the stem, where they came from, the branch, whatever you wanna call it, and then just push out. When you cut down, you push out. And then they just tear right apart, tear off. And that's how, easy way to do the broccoli with a little bit less mess and not like completely splattering those leaves. So as I do this, so the chicken, it's cooking at 375 right now, and I like to cook it at 375. You can crank it up to 400 if you want to go a little bit faster. At 375, that chicken will probably take an hour or a little bit longer than an hour, which is fine because we're doing this other prep, and then we're going to make the breakfast and stuff too. So that's why when I said total cook time, don't really worry too much about it because there's so much else that we're going to be doing, and you're multitasking and using your time wisely anyway. But you can crank that up to 400 to cook it a little bit faster. Sometimes I've done that, it doesn't really matter. A little bit slower, will stay a little bit more moist. It comes off the bone a bit easier to pick when it comes to picking. So that is why we're doing it at 375, but do whatever you want. We just finished doing the florets, we got all those. Now we have these stems. You can chuck these stems. I love to keep these stems. I think you should definitely keep the stems. There's a lot of nutrients and good stuff that you can do with these. I've never put them in the smoothies, but you can try to put it in the smoothies, go ahead. I will usually dice them and put them in a Tupperware container and use them for scrambles or omelets or whatever, even throw it in salads if you really want, don't mind raw. But for this, and just because I don't have any plans for anything else, I'm just going to dice them up and put it in with the rest, and we'll cook it all together. Broccoli is done, chopped, or for all intents and purposes, done for now, chopped off to the side. Now we're gonna do the sweet potatoes. So for the sweet potatoes, I just use it to dice the broccoli. I would recommend not using this one, but because it's better for dicing, I prefer my larger chef knife. First tip, main tip, please have a knife that is sharp. You're more likely to cut yourself on a dull knife than a sharp knife. So make sure your knife is actually sharp, and you're gonna have a hell of a time getting through them, the sweet potatoes, if they're not. And I'm gonna show you 2 different ways to cut it after we peel them. If you really want it, like, again, I'm just doing this the way that we prefer because we're gonna have it for Liz and for Landon, for the kid. We prefer the diced version. If you really want it super simple, just whack these in half or something, or get normal sized potatoes, and you can throw them in the oven with the chicken while it's cooking, and you'll have baked potatoes, or just throw them in the microwave for like, I don't know, 10 minutes or whatever, as long as they're soft, and then whack them in half, however size you want for your potatoes. Sweet potatoes are peeled. Sweet potatoes are peeled. Now, 2 ways that I like to cut them. A lot of times, you can see these are fat, and this is a little bit of a harder way to do it, but it's not too bad. Split it in half. Then I go in strips. Again, this is why you want a sharp knife, because if you had a dull knife, you'd be having a hell of a time right now. And then once you get certain strips, you can go across. And these are still going to yield some fatter pieces, especially these larger sweet potatoes. That's why I started to do them a different way, which I'll do the next way, depending on what you want. You might not like doing it this way anyway, so however you want to do it. See, these strips, if you do it thin enough, then they'll cook fine. Sweet potatoes tend to cook a little bit faster anyway, so however you want to do it. The next way, the way that I started doing it because of the size of these sweet potatoes, is cut them in rings and then dice them. You might have a better time doing this anyway, especially if you're a little bit nervous of cutting for how large they are and all the way across. Doing all the way across can be, a bit nerve-wracking at times. I've seen, well, if you have a dull knife, it can be really bad, and I've seen some people do some really scary things with the dull knife. The reason why it's easier to cut yourself with a dull knife than a sharp knife is because as you're putting force down, if it's not cutting, then it's just slipping, and it can slide off, and you have to put so much force and momentum into it that it could slip off and cut you, versus if you have a sharp knife, it just goes right through, and even if it slips, you're not putting all your weight into it, so you're not like gonna slip off and just totally whack off. Now that we have our dicing done, our chicken is still in the oven. It's only been in the oven for about 15 minutes. I'm going to do these dishes, and that would be another tip, is that when you have dishes, especially if you get a minute, just do them as you go, so that you don't have a huge stack of dishes, then it just looks terrible after you're done, and then that just takes you out of cooking. So, as I said, you're gonna have a lot of time extra because the chicken's gonna take a while. It's been in for 20-ish minutes. I usually don't check it till 45, 50. One good way to know when to check it first is when the liquid in it starts to bubble. That's usually when it's gotten pretty good and hot, and I'll check it and pull it out. But I don't need to check it yet, so I still have 20 some minutes, and that's why this is so good, because we still have 20 some minutes to even check the chicken. It's still not going to be done till an hour or later. Veggies are done, so now we can do our breakfast. So this is a muesli recipe that Liz came up with. I'll put it over on the screen on the side of what all of the ingredients are, and even the macro breakdown of this specific one. So we're going to start off. She will do everything in this kind of container, and this is the container that it will fit in, that it makes the size, and I usually get 4 or so days out of it, 4 or 5 days. Probably I can usually get a week out of it because I'll put other stuff in it than just the muesli. So this is what we're going to start with. We're going to get our scale going, and first thing is we have 120 grams of this muesli. So it is this 7 Sundays muesli. It's really, really good. Then we're going to go with 80 grams of oats, just regular rolled oats. Then we have 30 grams of sliced almonds. As I said before, this is a higher fat one, so if you don't want the higher fat, then skip the nuts. Oh, this is coconut, not almonds, but it's 30 grams of the coconut. So, fair trade coconut shreds. If you don't like coconut, don't put it in. Now here's the sliced almonds, also 30 grams. 70 grams of whatever protein you want. We do well-fed. It's a grass-fed whey, so it's really, really good. They taste really, really good as well. They have probably the best strawberry protein of any company I've ever had, but I'm just gonna do vanilla because you need protein. It's an easy way to get it. Boom, exactly 70. All right, So there's 70, and then the last thing is Greek yogurt. We are going to do 200 grams, which seems like a lot, but it's pretty dense, pretty heavy yogurt in general. So we do the 5% Fage, whatever. You want more protein than fat and carbs, so protein is definitely a big thing with these yogurts. Really want to make sure you're reading those labels because they really put some sugar and a lot of extra stuff in yogurts, and try not to get the low fat or fat-free yogurts because they tend to have more sugar than anything. If you need to skimp down, just put less yogurt in whatever you're doing. That's the easiest way, just put whatever milk you have. But this is one of the better yogurts that you can get. Good Pro Bs, all the stuff. So we have our container. Now you're gonna fill the rest of it with water. One reason why you would just fill everything up right in here is because you wanna make sure it can fit in your container that you're keeping it in. That's kind of important. But just to make less of a mess, I will put it in the bowl because it's easier to mix up. At night, it will, overnight and stuff, it will solidify a bit better. You know, results may vary depending on how much water you put in, depending on how much. I like mine a little bit more liquidy, only because, you know, I'll add more milk to it. Because when I go to eat my muesli in the morning, I put probably only a half a cup in my bowl, and then I will add maybe like a higher fat granola or a, which is kind of overkill, but a like Catalina Crunch cereal and some fruit. And that's my breakfast, so it beefs it up a little bit and it makes this last a bit longer. You now have your muesli, which will be ready tomorrow for the week. So we still have about probably 20 minutes before I'm going to check the chicken, but we have a while, and that's what the beauty of this food prep is, because you still have extra time. So if you're doing it on a Sunday, we worked for about 30 minutes to do what we've done. We have our breakfast, our chicken is cooking, and our vegetables are pretty much ready. Now you can go watch TV, do whatever you want, maybe even do laundry, however, you know, even prep something else. So we're at about an hour cook time now-ish, so it's time to check it just to see how it's doing. It's nice and bubbly, the liquids and everything in it. So how you want to check the temperature is to stab down into the main meat of it. Well darn, I cooked it too long. So the temperature is reading at 144. Usually I like to take it out. I was busy doing other things. Usually I like to take it out in the 120s, around 130, and then put it back in without the aluminum foil. This is just personal preference because we like the skin to be crispy. Because at 144, at this time, so I'm going to put it in, no top. I'm going to crank the oven to 400 because that's what we're going to cook our vegetables at, and this also helps to get the skin crispy. Typically at this temperature, it's going to be about one minute per 1 degree. So that means we're going to check it in about 10 minutes, and then I also like to keep an eye on the skin. Typically, if it's all right, then like once the skin is nice and crispy and you pull it out, it'll be nice and done. What we're doing right now, I'm just moving this one to the bigger pan so all the broth can fit and so that I can spread out. We're using the chicken juices, and then I'm going to use my seasoning here. So whatever seasoning you want, you could just do, you know, garlic, onion powder, whatever. We love the maple bourbon. This seasoning company is awesome, by the way, so I would really recommend Spiceology. They do a lot of awesome stuff. Maple bourbon is fantastic, and the baby likes it. So we're going to just sprinkle the seasoning right on it. What I was saying before is that I cooked the chicken to 152, and the reason being is that normally online it's going to tell you to cook it to 165. If you do that, then the outsides and everything could dry out more. So cooking to 152, 155 really, you're going to have it rest and not touching it for about 15-20 minutes, and then the external temperature is higher than the internal temperature, so it's going to continue to cook it while it just sits there, and so the inside is going to be plenty cooked. You'll be completely fine, but it's also going to just be juicier. And then throw it in the oven. Now, finally, we have our sweet potatoes. Normally, I would just throw these in our air fryer. We have a countertop air fryer right there. So if you have an air fryer, go ahead and air fry them. This is just how, that's how we do them, but since I'm using the oven and not everybody has an air fryer, I wanted to do this. I will put some oil in here, toss to coat so that when you put the seasonings on, it'll stick. Garlic, onion powder, like a salt. And you dump. Shake it, shake it, shake. and then throw it in the oven. But once again, we have free time. So we're at an hour and 20 total elapsed time right now. Chicken is gonna cool for at least 20 minutes, but it's gonna take those about 30 to 40 minutes to cook. But now you have 30 to 40 minutes of free time, yet again. So the chicken's been resting for 20-30 minutes. The broccoli is done. 2 potatoes have about 10 minutes left or so. This is the time where I will, you can take off the skin. Skin's delicious, and eat it. But I would also recommend, because we're going to pick this, you want it to cool off. So you have to wait 20 minutes because you want it to keep the moisture. But I just stick my thumbs in here, open it up, and this will vent the chicken because it's going to be really, really hot. Still down deep. You can loosen the legs too if you want. Just kind of open it up a little bit so that it vents. All right, all said and done. It's a total time of 2 hours and 12 minutes, specifically 2:15 we'll call it. You got a full chicken out of it, which once it cools, you're gonna pick it and put it in a tray. You got a full pan of sweet potatoes and all of this broccoli right here. This should last you probably the week for lunches. You're gonna get a good amount of it, and with that 2 hours and 15 minutes, you got your week's full of breakfast as well with the muesli that we made. Now, all said and done with this, that does seem like a lot of time, even though it really wasn't that much time. However, you had a 30 to 40 minute chunk in the beginning where you could do whatever you want, go watch a show. Then once you did more work, then you come back and you did another 30 to 40 minutes or probably 30 minutes of open time as well. So you have plenty of free time. You can make this a lot faster if you wanted to with, you can put everything in a pan if you want. You can cook a chicken breast or anything boneless. It'll cook a whole lot faster in the oven, and then you can also cook these in separate pans all at once if you wanted to, and then also you can make more of this if you want. So if you have a big enough pan, you can put 2 chickens in the pan. You can also do more broccoli or whatever you want, more sweet potatoes. You can make rice. So I'll do another video of this. Let me know if you like it, if you want something else, if you have something, request specific for cooking for certain foods. I'm going to do another thing like this where I'll do a meat, a carb, and a veg. Let me know what you think. Leave a like, comment, whatever you want to do, and let's chat more in the comments if you have any questions.